Hi, Sylvain.
Hello, Claire.
We're back again for episode 4.
Well, let's hope we keep coming back for many, many years to come.
Yes, that'll be nice. So we haven't had any comments or questions this time, but there's something that I wanted to talk about actually,
Ah,
and we can maybe start with that, which is the what actually is lost or what stays with us at the point of death, because a lot of people assume that they're the body or something in them kind of that that's what they are. So when death comes, there's a sort of a genuine loss of self, of who that individual is, and and then there's also, but when you think about it, what is it that we really miss about somebody when they die? And it's very rarely the physical self. We don't miss the body as much as we miss the animating field behind it. We miss the spirit. We miss what was animating the body. And that's sort of what I think creates that sense of deep grief, this, that can be incredibly painful. And that's why people are soothed often by seeing robins or butterflies or songs coming on that remind them of the people, because there's a sense of, okay, well, that thing that I loved so much and that I miss so much is still, in a way, there's a sort of continuation of it. But it can be painful, I think, when the physical form is confused with that deeper essence. And that's where the grief can become quite chronic. It can become incredibly intense when there's a confusion about who we actually are and about who our loved ones actually are, because then there is a sense of, okay, well, we've lost the animating spirit that they were. We haven't just lost the physical form, we haven't lost the ability to communicate with that person. We've lost sort of something even deeper. So I thought we could maybe talk about, well, is there a difference? We were talking about it earlier. There's the spirit and then there's the human. Is it the same thing, or is there a spirit that continues beyond the human? The human might die, but the spirit continues. Or is it that the spirit and the human are enmeshed, and when we die, it's curtains, and that's the end of it, which is nihilistic, but some people might say is true. So I thought maybe we could discuss the sort of contradictions and similarities and explore it a little, because it can be tangled. So it's quite interesting to look at that, I think, if you agree.
yeah, yeah. No, what comes to mind when listening to you carefully is, I mean, you know, my uh, focus. I mean, I always tend to say that there's actually very little interest or worthwhile trying to think or double guess what's happening in those areas we can see. And I think that actually, having discussed death before and said, well, this is part of life. Now, we don't know what's going to happen afterwards, but nor does it matter. We'll find out when it comes. And for me, the way to learn about anything like that is really to be in the present, is to look at life as we see it as we go along. And I think we tend to spend sometimes a long time, a lot of abilities to actually double guess what's happening in those areas we can see right in front of our eyes. We've got actually see life in operation. And I mean not us, not the human beings, life in general, how it works. We can observe it every second of the day. There is no, excuse me, there's no screen hiding what life is like, in front of us. So if we look at it carefully, we find out, and I'm going to come back to your question in a minute. Sorry, I've got a bit of a sore throat. When we look at the way life operates, you will actually, we will see both the what you call the human, and I would call the practical and the spiritual. It's all there for us to see. Now, can we see the spiritual? Yeah, I think we can see it. And what is that? Well, if you look at actually the material side of nature, whether it's a human being or it's an animal or it's a tree. Let's take a tree because it's easy to do. If you actually look at a tree, you've got the tree itself, of course, and you can see it, you can touch it, you can listen to the wind in the leaves, you can actually do all sorts of things with the trees there. But do we actually consider that we are both, the tree and us, living in what we call the air? We actually, and we both breathe in and we breathe out. And we talk about rain when actually we both drink the water, which is coming fundamentally from the sky and then from the earth. Now, we both have the same thing. If you suppress the air or the water, both the tree and we will die because we can't survive without it. And in the water and in the air and in the soil that we share are nutrients which keeps us alive. Now, one can see if you take the air, for example, well, that's a spirit, isn't it? It actually, there's actually no doubt whatsoever that we can observe that we share completely the resources of this planet. Both everybody depends on the same thing. We are connected through the air because we breathe the same thing and we expel the same thing. So we share the air together. We share the water because there is a cycle of it. We share the nutrients from the soil through what we eat and what we consume and what it goes in the water as well. So for me, this is the work. If we start early to be really interested in life, and we should be really, because we are alive we're here, and we don't know why or how, and there's no point of trying to find out why if we are not actually start being now and making the best of it for now and looking after life itself. So if we do the same with the people we share life with, which is what you're coming back to what you said, there's plenty of opportunity to actually discuss those things together and knowing that we do share in spirit, whether we like it or not, we are connected by those invisible things that you can, the air, we don't see the air, but it's there all the same, and we're connected all the time at all those levels. We are totally dependent on each other. So we don't see it because it's happened on a big scale and people don't look at a small scale, but it happens the same with us. So we live in the same house with someone for years, and then we never realize that we've shared far more than the material stuff. And so we are spiritual, whether we like it or not, if you can call that spirit, is that connection that is actually observable right now, by anyone who wants to look at it and realize how much we are the same person. So when you think about death, and I'm not going to go into it because I don't know what happens after death, but what I know for sure is that I've shared and I will carry on sharing the totality, whether my body exists or not, because my body is made of atoms and some elements which will, carry on regardless. So, I think there is a way to, if we want to carry on the relationship with people that are going to pass on, we have to start earlier and be aware that there will be, cycle that we're part of, but we are not leaving anywhere. We will carry on being together, and if we are open to that, I'm sure we'll know it. As soon as you know that, you can actually connect far better.
Sounds good. Well, I think it's about human connection. It's about feeling connected to each other, the environment, what's around us.
Absolutely,
And
yes.
that's what you're saying. It can continue and it can happen before
It's
death.
never
It can
stopped.
happen after death.
It's never stopped. We can reconnect and go into it as if we want to. See, the other thing which I think is quite interesting today, because it's fairly new still, is the internet. Now here we are talking together and we are not in the presence of each other, physically speaking. You're in one place, I'm in another. Yet we are almost together. That through that virtual medium, well, we are together. So if that is possible for electronically, you can, why is not, we're only copying what life already offers. So, you can have an image. And now, of course, if somebody dies, you can have a photograph and animate it. You can ask AI to actually make that person talk. So you could actually potentially, the relationship we've got now on the screen, I can believe it's real and you exist, whether you're alive or dead, and then I carry on talking to you. And
I think you have to be careful with some of this stuff sometimes. And I'm not saying you do this, but I know some people get very involved in spirituality and they start thinking, okay, well, it doesn't really matter about the human because it's all spirits. Or if someone dies, oh, they were never really, that wasn't really them anyway. And it can be a sort of way to bypass the humanity. I know you don't do that, but I know some people in the spiritual circles can sort of use spirituality as a way to avoid feelings of grief and loss and humanity.
oh no, I'm very much to the contrary. It's because I value the reality, the practical side to it, what you call the human side. And I think that actually is what I'm saying. When you are human, you're not dead. And when you're human, you've got to actually observe where you are, what's going on, and be respectful of that and make sure it succeeds. So it gives you a far more, it's very important to be human. And it's very important to realize as you are human, how you depend on everything around you. So I think this is actually in order to confirm and to have not a belief, but to have a confirmation that what's happening now, because you've seen it time and time again, will go on repeating itself and carry on. I mean, that's all.
So how did you arrive at this conclusion, this realization, this understanding of
Well,
life?
very simply, because I'm a simple guy, and I never wanted to actually, find the mysteries. I wanted to know. I don't want to believe in anything. I want to show I've got a reality. I mean, people in my life when I was young, in particular, talked to me about God, the Catholic God, because I'm French, and that was the order of the day. And I was told all the stories and to believe in this and to believe in that. And looking at the people who were telling me to believe in it, I eventually said, well, why would I believe them? I mean, why can't you show me? I mean, if you, as a priest, you've got a relationship with God, why can't I have one? What makes you special about that? If there is a connection to God, I want to have it as well, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. I don't need somebody to tell me what to do, on behalf of God. I want to find out for myself. So I started very, very interested in those things early on in my life. And I've come to the point that actually, well, if you want to see God, well, it's pretty obvious. I mean, everything you see is God, I mean, by that nature, and the interest in looking how it works is actually like you fall in love with someone. You're so amazed and they're so beautiful and wonderful that you want to know more. And not only you want to know more, but you want to say, oh, show me what you can do. I'm so interested in how you grow. It's such an adventure, and that's what life is to me.
Yeah, I mean, you're part of it. It's not, it feels as if, well, there's no separation. You're witnessing yourself. It's
Yeah,
it's a
absolutely,
it's a
yes.
beautiful thing. Yeah, yeah. And I suppose when you have that awareness of life, you have that awareness that you're not separate from it, then there isn't the fear of death in the same way because you can never be separate from life.
Oh, absolutely. But it's also the fact that actually, you also realize that the connection you have with people. I don't like the word spiritual in a way because I use it because you were using it. But I think it's the reality of it. It's actually there's nothing different between the physical. There are things we can't see, like you can't see the air, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So you could argue it's a mystery, but it isn't actually. We can demonstrate that the air exists. So that's the spirit, if you want to call it that way, also exists. And I think if you know somebody well and you spend a lot of your life with someone, I think that you have a relationship beyond just the mundane things of every day. you have you've understood how that person dealt with particular issues or behave in the, in general, and that can carry on because you can definitely remember, oh, how would Claire do this, for example, and say, oh yeah, very much that really like that, and I'm going to do the same, and that this makes me feel, yeah, it's still happening. So I think we can keep people alive in that way when we've actually accepted that they added something to our lives, with their views, their habits, their ideas, whatever they realize in their lives and being still there. And so it does go on.
Well, I think that's a very practical thing, actually, that this understanding can improve our relationships and make them more harmonious and peaceful and cooperative.
Oh, absolutely, and you know as well as I do, we've got an interest in relationships. So I think that this is part of that. It's touching a very important subject, which is how you relate to other people, and then something which I feel I might write a little text for the website because it's something which I've tried to do in my life is when you get hurt by a relationship, really badly hurt, which I have, and other people have obviously. I decided on the last one that actually I was going to stand by it and suffer if necessary, but I will not find ways of abandoning or renegating on the love I felt for the other person. And that in the contrary, I would keep that going because I would never want to do to somebody what was done to me. And that really what makes me, sorry, there's a fly here.
I can see.
And never wanted to actually, transform what was actually a beautiful feeling into a nasty one or something which I will blame life for. And I think that eventually it's a way to find real love, where if you love somebody, don't deny it and don't try not to love them anymore. Actually, when you love them, if they want to do something else, when they've got your support, you don't deny their right to do whatever they want, even if what they do is
Yeah.
hurtful.
Yeah. Well, I think that's about seeing the beauty in even the pain. I mean, we talked about this in the last few episodes. Even if we're hurt, even if people do things that we don't like, even if we don't understand certain things, we still don't need to lose our love, our compassion, our attempt to understand at least. That doesn't need to be taken away from us. It can be challenged. And I think with things like death and the end of relationships, it definitely is challenged. But we don't need to lose our faith in something that is well, I don't know, I want to say positive, but something that is at least in service of life.
Well, of course, and that answers your original question, the way we started, is if you ask me, why can you take in death? Well, you're not going to take anything material, obviously, because the material disappears with your own materiality in a way. But certainly, you're going to take love with you. Because I think
Mm.
if you, in the way we've just discussed it, I mean, not silly love, but something which has been built upon our lives, whereby we've actually ensured that actually our love meant love, not exploitation, not self-serving, but something which is actually giving other people the freedom and the support to be themselves. Well, that's something you can travel with wherever
Mm.
you go.
Yes, yes. And it takes a temporary form. The body is the house for that love, like the shell for the crab, where
That's
it,
right.
it, it inhabits it for, if we're lucky, 80 or maybe even more years. That's sort of we get to experience being human for a particular period of time. That's the form that love takes. And I think it can be painful when we see ourselves aging, when we get ill, because, that's the form of love. And so if that's the form of love, then that's the love that we see. So when that starts to disintegrate or appears to fade, we can feel that love is fading, love is disintegrating, we're losing love. And I wonder how much of grief that really is.
Or maybe we are gaining love. And
What do you mean?
but loving life means you've got to accept what some people say is, disappearing or getting old. Why is that so bad? And I think that maybe it's a wonderful thing to get old. I knew. I mean, look at me. I
Well,
mean,
I suppose that's what I mean, because actually, what do we mean by love? Is it the sort of essence of, is it consciousness? Is it sort of the essence of things? So yes, if the form is you're sort of gradually losing a form, is that actually you coming more into contact with the source? A lot of there can be a sort of radiance or an openness, people who have come to peace with their lives, which is a shame, I think, in our society, because, a lot of older people are sort of clinging on to their material possessions. They're getting Botox, they're trying to stay young, at a very older age. And there's a sort of not wanting to let go that can almost make it seem like there's not a beauty in getting older. There's not something there that we can see. We can't see that peace, that radiance, that love, which is the end of life, which is death, because people are sort of fearful of it. So they're doing everything they can to block it by not wanting to let that just shine out of them. So I think as a society, we've all sort of bought into this idea of, being old is ugly and it's undesirable, and we don't want to do that for ourselves, and we don't want that. And as you say, that what a pity, because actually it might be that there's a gain in love. The older we get and the more our bodies fail us, it may be that actually we're becoming more in touch with love. So why that can't be seen or translated, um, is maybe something that we can change as a society.
you've definitely put your finger on it and you described it very well. I mean, but it goes with what I said before as well about love. I mean, if somebody's hurt you badly, and you say, okay, I will be the one to take the pain and I will transform that into love. Well, the same happens with life because when you hear people say getting old is horrible, getting ill is horrible, life is awful, it's actually hurt people. Look at illnesses, the wars, the stupidity, all those negative things. You can say, "Oh, life is absolute rubbish, and I don't want to have anything to do with it." What a horrible thing to, or you can say, well, despite everything which appears to be bad, which I find hurtful, I will overcome that because I will love and I will refuse to be dragged down into hating life. I will carry on finding why, why I love life in the first place and how I can carry on doing so. This is the same thing. And this is the only way, as far as I can see, that you can go for it. Because whatever you do, you're going to get old, or not you. One is going to get old, and one might get ill. One might suffer. We can't stop any of those things. So if we decide that actually means that life is worthless, we can as well all jump off a cliff right at the beginning. So we've got to actually be the supporters of life, and the only way to do that is to work out why those ordeals, apparently always painful moments, well, is something we need to overcome and transcend. And I think it's totally possible
Yes.
because in everything we look, there is beauty and there is love if we look carefully enough.
I was going to say, how does one do that? I don't know if that's a question that I'm allowed. We can even ask, because I suppose in asking the question, it suggests that it's not being done already.
Well, it probably some people do, but I mean, it is can be a very long conversation, and because actually, why simply why do people think getting old is a problem? Now, what if I'm old and ugly? Why is that a problem to anyone or to myself? So what's the issue about the way we look? What is the issue between being young and old? Why,
Well, I
why is
think
it
it's
a problem?
it's sort of, I think it's a human biological thing, isn't it? There's sort of reproduction, there's material gains, there's seeking pleasure. I think it's a sort of biological drive, really.
But there is that. But I mean, you end up actually, finding that people. at 80 years old, wanting to be seen as young people and being dealt or addressed as young people in terms of attraction from the other sex, for example, or for people who like them. It is that sort of very superficial understanding of life in a very, very simple form that people think is the best thing ever. Now, this is a real issue because it means that actually nobody looks at the riches of people acquired experience of life, for example, as something of value. That's what I'm talking about, loving life. When it's not skin deep, like being old, because it doesn't really matter that you're old. In fact, your mind, and I'm a witness to it, your mind is actually perfectly fresh, far better than it was when you were 25. So you might have been, I don't know if I was attractive to girls when I was 25, but really compared to that, what I can live today is a damn sight better and more satisfying.
Well, I think we've sort of got into the crux of it really, which is, it's humans are wanting connection, whether that's on a physical or a spiritual level. It often seems to be the former. That's what they see, that's what they experience. So they think, well,
Well,
that's the way to get love is to go and have sex. There's a physical connection. That's what makes me attractive to other people. I feel good about myself. It's a sort of the human seeking principle. Um, and that seems to be something that's wired into biology. And are we saying that the spiritual side is necessarily better, that it's better to be sort of to have the mind rather than the body, to be in this state of well, not attached to form? I mean, are we saying that that's better, do you think?
I mean, there is no need to actually, necessarily qualify by words, which meaning particular things. What we got to do is actually accept that we are alive, accept that we don't know why or how, and to accept that life itself has got rules which we can't actually change. We have to find them out. We've got to understand what they're doing, and then we've got to respect them, and then we've got to trust life. Now that's a big sort of tall order, I know, because a lot of people only see the newspapers heading about all the wars, all the horrible people around, and all the dangers and the climate change, all those things. So there's plenty to feel that actually is absolutely awful, and we are living in hell, and there is no hope for the human race. But I think there is plenty of hope for human race. We are capable of changing anything instantly if you want to. So it's a question of actually if one is enough aware of the suffering, but enough aware as well of the opportunity to stop suffering. Well, maybe more people acting that way would actually change the way life is lived by human beings.
Well, I think that would be a benefit to everyone because we'd be living healthier, better lives. So yes, absolutely, any age can benefit from that.
And I definitely think that actually, the site you just created is a means to actually do that. It's not a lightweight little idea just for fancy idea. It's actually a fundamental need in the world, and I hope it succeeds beyond expectations because it's so much needed. And it's more needed because it's genuine. It's not trying to make money or trying to prove anything to anybody or anything that would make other people to believe. It's actually to offer people a reflection and really to look deeper about what they've got in front of them, which is looking deeper means a lot simpler. So that
Yes.
you don't look for mysteries, you look for the real things, the tiny little things, and try to comprehend that a flower, what is a flower growing? Look at it and understand why that is you're looking at. And we like such complicated explanations that we get lost in seeing the simplicity.
Yes. Well, I mean, the group isn't about any teachings. It's not about seeing anything in a particular way or teaching anyone to be a certain in a particular way either. It's really, I mean, I think it's very vulnerable and it's very beautiful when people can just be human, when they can just say, I don't know what's happening here. I'm not going to sit here and preach and say this is the way it is, this is how it is for me. It's really just having a conversation about it. You know, what do you think? What do you think? This is, yeah, this is how I see it. I'm not saying it's right, but this is my perspective. And it can be so easy for people, I think, to get caught in certainty. And it can also be easy to hear certainty because someone might say something that they've experienced themselves in a way that is like makes it seem like fact, particularly if they say it with authority, they've got followers, they've got an audience, and then people hear it. And then there's a, okay, well, that person said it and they therefore know what they're talking about. And then that person then almost loses their natural ability to explore and to do the work for themselves because they're sort of cheating by copying someone else's homework. Oh, well, you know, you said it, so I don't have to do the work. But what I like is just hosting these spaces where we can both just explore as people who don't really know, but who are just coming at it with their best attempts. And that can be a more vulnerable place because there's that lack of certainty. And also, people might not be so interested because people want to listen to people who are certain, who say, well, no, this is the fact. I know what I'm talking about. I'm an expert. So to actually go out there and say, this is just me, this isn't anything more than my experience and my perspective. It's not a fact necessarily. You know, that's really been quite humble and quite open and quite vulnerable. So I hope more people will join the conversations and that sort of ethos will continue.
Of course, I mean, and as you said before, the only truth that we can apprehend is the one we found for ourselves. So at the end of the day, we can't be told anything by anybody else. We can be shown directions, we can be shown places that we have the ability to explore. So pointing out a particular, might help somebody to go where they need to be or something like that. That's possible. But apart from that, to tell people what they should believe or what they should see is up to them, of course.
Well, hopefully people are enjoying the conversations and figuring their own answers out, because I think actually it can almost spark a few thoughts that happen internally. So they're our own thoughts, they're our own ideas, but it's almost like there can be a sort of creative space where that more of those thoughts can sort of come more rapidly when you watch conversations like these.
Of course, I mean, and it does open one's mind to things, and it doesn't matter if one doesn't remember any of it. What's important probably would be registered or might lead to
Yeah.
something else. So, it's an enjoyable moment of free discussion when it's not planned. We haven't written anything in advance and reading it. It's a spontaneous conversation, and I think anybody joining in might have spontaneous ideas out about it. So,
Yes. I think it's always the best to not plan it and not know what we're going to say. It's just creativity. Well, I'll see you for the next one. Should we leave it
Well,
there?
I hope so. It's always fun. Thank you very much for your
Okay.
time.
Bye bye.
Bye.